Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to what could possibly be the next to last Topic Time episode of 2022. What a great year it has been for the show. I've been profiled on a podcast. I had my 12th anniversary. I'm in my lucky 13th year, and as we wrap up of 2022, going toward Christmas, I have a beautiful guest. It's too bad she's only a Zoom guest. I always love my in-person interviews, but she'll be an awesome interview. Before we get to her, though, I've got to read these great underwriters, and then we will commence per usual. Don't have a lot, but they're all great, so we read them off. So we got Salon Giovanni in Marshfield. We got New England Floorscapes in Middleborough. We got Pembroke Radiator in Pembroke. We got Your Shine Pro Detailing in Abington, always looking for new talent. We got Crazy Axes Rec Center in Hanover. We got the Cornerstone Barbershop in Pembroke. We got Tom Otto in Middleborough. We got Rodney's Kitchen in Halifax. We got the law offices of Cahalan and Stefani PC in Brockton, specializing in personal injury and workman's comp law. We got the Gunrunner LLC in Middleborough, your Second Amendment Freedom Store. We got Ocean Street Auto Repair and Service in Marshfield. And we got DNS Auto Works right here on Route 58 down the road, up the road in Abington, I should say. And thank you guys very much. And on that note, I'll now introduce this lovely young lady with the sherry glass in her hand. This is Ariel. She works for an ad agency. She is a former Bennington College student. And by the way, we talked about this. I did a seminar in 1990. I don't think you were born yet. If you were, you look very good for your age.
Well, thank you. But yes, I was alive at that point.
Really? Wow. That's incredible. We may cover that too. But Sherry, you're Ariel, not Sherry. Now I'm going to be thinking that tune for the rest of the night. So Ariel, thank you for doing my show tonight. I love the decor, the big clock, the bubbly Christmas tree.
I mean, you gotta get in the holiday spirit, right?
Yeah, I know. I really wasn't in it before, but you're kind of getting me into it, and that's whatever it takes, right? After all. All right. Well, you're alive. I would, if it's kind of interesting. You told me. You just revealed to me that you were born before 1990, and if you were born after that, I'd say you were a Gen Z. But obviously, you're probably a pre-Gen Z, and you'd be more like the upper generation, like a trendsetter. But you're probably not that old, because then you'd be born in even like the 60s or 70s, and there's no way.
No, not.
I am always curious. All right, so tell me about I profile every guest like this. You're obviously fairly young. You're right. You have a pretty good deal. A pretty good career going there. So tell me about your childhood. Like I do that with every guest. Tell me where you grew up and how you came to get to do what you're doing now, what you aspired to. And then if I have any questions regarding that, I'll roll them in and we'll take it from there. This is how we detectives piece together these puzzles. So go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah. So I grew up on the Cape.
Okay.
And I was always drawing. I loved to draw.
Okay.
So that was kind of, my main thing for a little while. And I also loved writing stories.
Yeah, I wrote a whole book of short stories in the 90s, but go on.
What's that?
I wrote a book of short stories in the 90s. It took me the whole decade to do it.
Nice. Well, I mean, I take forever to write anything, so I'm with you.
Better to get it right than to scribble and trash, right? After all.
Yeah, and I feel like the thing is, how do you know when you're done with something?
Right? That's true. You prove well. My method was to proofread it, sent it by my father because he's sort of a literature expert. The home library that I grew up in was huge. They have about 400 books on their shelf to this day. And then and they have a critique by a competent lit professor. I'd say that would be one way to go. But that's great. So you like to write stories. What kind of stories did you write? Were they kind of wild and off the cuff, off the wall?
I mean, when I was a kid, I wrote about unicorns and mermaids. And eventually in the third grade, when I started wanting a dog, I started writing stories about dogs.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. Okay. I'm pretty sure I wrote a story one time about a chicken who entered into a parallel universe.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was
imagination. I've always had these sci-fi fantasies too. Parallel universes, chicken. I guess you like animals. That's good. I assume, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I just hope the chicken had it better in the other universe than he might have had it in this one, or at least that's good. Not as bad. I hope he got to eat his grains and didn't have to end up in the Purdue plate. That's all.
Yeah, no, he did not end up in a Purdue plate. I think what happened was he was going to be killed.
He got pardoned, like by the president, right?
By the president?
Well, the president can pardon turkeys. Why can't he pardon chickens?
Oh, well, fair, right?
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I think he escaped his fate in a parallel universe.
I love it.
I don't really remember. I was like,
no, but that's great. What an awesome. I mean, I can tell your brain was obviously clicking at a young age, as was mine. I penned my first short story on September 20th, 1969. That was a Saturday, and it was about it was time travel.
Cool.
So yeah, and I was just a couple of weeks short of my 10th birthday. All right, well, that's great. So you like to draw and you like to write stories. So where did this take you as a younger person, and how did it end up leading to what you're doing now?
I mean, I continued to write throughout my childhood, and middle school. I joined like the school newspaper, I guess.
Where did you go?
I was always writing.
You're talking about when you were living on the Cape, right?
Yep.
Are you talking about high school newspaper or even younger?
No, it was in middle school. We had it wasn't really it was a newspaper, but it was more of like a literary kind of
publication. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and so I continued to write, and then then I went to college.
In college.
Yep.
And where did you? All right. That was great. What did you major in there?
So on paper, I majored in literature, but the thing about Bennington is that you have the freedom to create your own major.
Okay.
And so what that looked like in practice was, it was definitely, a lot of literature courses, but then also some philosophy courses, some like layman's science courses, because like I'm terrible with numbers. So like give me like, a physics problem or whatever, and I'll lose my mind. But like they had classes about like the sort of cultural implications of, scientific paradigm shifts that were interesting.
Wow.
And I was interested in that. And yeah, so it was kind of an interdisciplinary major. But you did have to like kind of put a name on it or like one topic on it. So I chose literature just because that was kind of closest to writing. They for some reason they didn't have a writing major at Bennington, even though a lot of writers came out of Bennington.
It's kind of ironic because I actually did a writer's workshop there the summer of 1990, where we met with a lot of authors from around the world and the country. And very creative people could come in. You didn't take any creative writing courses at all when you were there, or did you?
No, I did.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like writing was not a major that you could put down. But certainly, I took a lot of writing workshops.
Sweet. Okay, so have you been published at all at any capacity that you can talk about?
Yeah, I've been published in a few different places. So some kind of, local newspapers.
Okay.
When I was in college, I did an internship at the Boston Herald, and I was published. I published a handful of articles in the Boston Herald. I, believe it or not, wrote an article for Hustler.
Okay. Wow. I mean, that's if you look, I mean, I'm going to be blunt. If you look nice enough to appear in it, why can't you write for it? But that's a show for another day. Okay.
Yeah,
but that's how'd you end up? Well, did you actually talk to Larry Flint?
No, but he signed my check.
Wow. What did you? Well, tell me. You got to tell me about it. What was it about? The article.
So I had actually been writing for another magazine called Boink. I don't know if you remember Boink at all, but
well, I like the title, but I don't remember it. But that's fine.
So it was a magazine basically made by college students for college students.
Okay.
And it was
was it similar to the name? Did it have?
Yeah. So it was essentially a kind of, more tasteful erotica magazine.
Yeah. Woo.
And I was going into my sophomore year of college, and I was with a friend at like a coffee shop or something, and we saw an ad that was like I don't know, like right for this college sex magazine, and I was like this 19-year-old who was like, I want to write, I want to publish myself. So I sent in a short story, and they accepted it, and they were like, this is great, like, please send us more stuff. So I continued writing short stories, and so then how the Hustler thing happened was that Hustler had gotten word of the Boink magazine, and they wanted to feature Boink in their publication. And so they wanted someone who wrote for Boink to write as like a guest contributor. And so the editors asked me if I would write something for Hustler on behalf of Boink. And so
they must have thought your story was pretty wild, like, kind of, in order to want that. I'd like to read it now. And I also like to give you a copy of my book. I bet you'd enjoy it, because my stories were kind of like that too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Wow. Okay, so at some point maybe we can do, like, I can give you a copy of my book. That would be awesome. All right. Wow. So he's still, now currently you're working for this ad agency. Talk about what you're doing there, and then I still want to get back to more literature. But tell me about what your deal is, as much as you can reveal. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm working at an ad agency now as an associate creative director. The agency I'm at now currently is the products are healthcare related. And then in the past, I have written for. I worked at the in-house agency at Staples. So
Staples the store with the appliances.
Correct. Yep.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yep. Staples, Jocelyn, Maine, which is like a division of Wayfair. I joined them kind of quite early on, so I was there to kind of help shape the brand voice. That's kind of where I kind of cut my teeth on copywriting, and I worked at an agency a few years back where I worked on CenturyLink, which is I don't think it's available in the Northeast, but it's basically like a telecom company.
So you've been doing this copyright for a lot of, you're very well traveled with your work, right? Your work's probably seen. You do like for TV commercials and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all kinds of things.
All kinds of things.
Yeah,
stuff and everything.
Digital.
Yeah. Wow.
Videos, websites.
Have you ever acted in a commercial that you've written, or even one that you haven't?
So I wrote a radio spot. And I did voiceover for a portion of it. That's kind of the other half, not necessarily the other half of my job, but I also do some voiceover occasionally for my agency.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you're really ensconced in this. That's great. So having that thing going on now. So you have right now, your position in the company is pretty high up, right?
I know. I mean, it's kind of.
I mean, as far as like I mean,
It's
I mean,
mid
you're
high, I guess.
might as well be. I mean, the board of directors is like one step above where you're at, right? Pretty close. Well, I'll put it this way: your input is used regularly, so you're very well in. I don't want to say inundated. You're very well incorporated into the corporation. You do a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have some levels to go.
All right, okay, I understand.
But I'm not a junior copywriter anymore.
I understand. But how many years have you been there for now? How long? Or if it's still years?
At that particular agency, I want to say about maybe like 6 years.
Wow. Okay. And did you go right out of college after was there any connection between Bennington, or did you just get it on your own, the job?
No, there was no. So I loved college.
Okay.
Like it was such a great time in my life. I loved learning. I loved going to classes. I was such a nerd in that way. However, I will say that college did next to nothing for my career.
You just have fun like the party. That's all. Oh, I see what you mean. But you had fun. But
no. I mean, I wasn't.
Yeah, but you can't say that. Next, you know what? Listen. Just so here's the thing: you can't say your college is very valuable because you learned how to interact with a lot of people, and you learn what you learn what your strengths were, what your weaknesses were, or whatever, and it enabled you to pursue what you're doing today. So there is a connection. I'm not saying.
Well, yeah, it might be an indirect connection. I don't regret it at all.
Well, I always say everything happens for a reason. So and you love college, and it's obvious. I love that campus. I mean, you ever noticed?
Oh God, yeah.
You notice how up in Vermont they do this really crazy. They do this really awesome art. Speaking of art, I don't know if you've ever done this kind of art, but they take body rotted parts from cars and they turn it into sculptures. They get all kinds of those. When I was at Bennington that summer of 1990, they were everywhere. I don't know if they were there when you were there, but they were.
I don't recall.
Interesting. I figured you'd notice that. You must have an eye for that sort of thing, I would think, but maybe they took them down. Who knows?
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember.
Okay. Well, as far as artwork, how are you still doing? You still does drawing it today incorporate any of your work for the agency?
No, I don't. That's kind of a hobby that sort of fell off.
Okay.
I'd say around high school. It's funny. Like I have these like kind of interests that I kind of cycle in and out of in my life, and drawing and art is one of them. But it's one that has kind of been dormant for a little while.
Okay, you gotta just do what feels good on any given day. Have you ever done any acting, any music or anything like that, or any?
Yep.
Ever done stand-up comedy or anything like that? You like comedy? You seem to be a comical appreciator of comedy.
I've never done stand-up comedy, but I did. Acting was a huge part of my life in high school.
Cool.
And so singing.
Yep.
So yeah, that's.
Do you know who Sarah Silverman is, the stand-up comedian?
Yep.
My cousin.
Oh wow, nice. Yeah, she's great. She's hilarious.
Yeah, I figured you look a little like her now that I think of it. You sort of have that face that she has. And I've been told, it's nothing wrong with that. She's one of the best looking people in our family, I'd say. Okay. All right. So, you did acting. When you did acting, was that on stage? Was it in film, or both?
On stage for the most part,
okay.
in high school, and then after college, I did some like short film projects with a friend of mine. But yeah, so a little bit of a mixture of both.
Okay.
But yeah, theater acting is kind of what kind of dominated my high school life.
Well, I mean, I got to say, it's impressive because theater acting, if you got to be I'd say it's braver to do theater acting because you don't have a chance to screw up. If you do film, you screw up, you do as many takes as you need. When you do theater acting, it's a one and done thing.
Yeah, I was so surprised when I did the film stuff because I at that point I hadn't done it before. I had only my experience was only acting on stage, and so of course you memorize the lines in order, and then it's like, all right, we're going to do this scene, we're going to do this scene, we're going to do this scene, and you really only need to memorize a handful of lines at a time. And even then it's like, you can have people feeding you lines. It's
but you still have to memorize them, and that's not easy. I mean, you have to rehearse, especially if you have someone. Have you ever written a play at all? Like have you ever attempted to do that, or something like that?
Yeah, I did write a play once, but it was more of a kind of experimental play that's really sort of meant to be read.
Okay.
About Darwin and the unicorn.
Darwin and unicorns. Okay, so that's one form of evolution, I guess.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, that's really the only play that I've ever written, and it's really more of like.
So like some of your short, like sort of like a spin-off to one of your stories that you wrote as a kid.
No, it wasn't a spin-off of a story. It was its own thing, but yeah, it had no set. It had only one actor and an imaginary unicorn. So
okay, well, were you in it as well, or just someone else? I mean, were you in the?
No.
You weren't in it, okay? But you must have assigned the actor, right? Whoever it was.
Oh no, it was never performed. Yeah.
No, okay, but
I am interested in writing and directing a film at some point in my life.
Well, if you do, I'd love to be in it because I bet you'd be great. And I've done some acting too. You see Shutter Island?
No.
Leonardo DiCaprio, okay, I was the mental patient. I was the role I was born to play.
Oh, nice.
11 years earlier, I was in Amistad. That was 25 years ago in 1997. That was my first role with Spielberg. And he fired me on set for a faux pas that he did himself. But he could afford it, I guess. But it was.
What happened?
Well, I was playing a member of the House of Representatives in 1839. So we were in the State House in Boston, and it was Saturday, March 22nd, 1997, which, by the way, I have a photographic memory for dates. So if you told me a date of birth, I could tell you what day of the week you were born and what I was doing, because I have autism and it enables me to remember stuff like that.
Okay.
But anyway, we were supposed to. Anthony Hopkins was playing John Quincy Adams, who was our president and a senator, I guess. I don't know what he was in 1839. But the scene was where he was sort of dozing off, and Spielberg wanted us to ad lib, asking how he was, or is he okay, or asking how his condition was. And I said, is he okay? And he said, you idiot, they didn't say it like that in 1839. So here we were. I mean, my first film, 37 and a half at the 20th century, and I was supposed to know off the top of my head, in an ad lib scene that it was only property. It was 19th century dialogue when I didn't even know what it was. I figured. If he'd said don't talk a certain way, you should have said it. And he should have been more specific. But I missed out on a couple more scenes that I might have done in Newport, Rhode Island, the following Monday because of that. Didn't pay me that much either, but it was it was a good experience, and I got to stand next to Matthew McConaughey for what that's worth. It didn't really do anything for me, but I could see a lot of the ladies were enjoying that experience. So I mean, but it was fun. It was a fun thing to do. And I never thought I'd get called for the role either. They called me the day after I thought they'd picked everybody for the scene, and then I went down to Newport, Rhode Island on February 1st, 1997 on a very balmy Saturday to audition. And they didn't really audition me. They just took my information. They called me on Friday, March 14th after I thought everybody had been picked. They said, come on in. You can, come in for Fit for Wardrobe on Monday the 17th, St. Patrick's Day. So I went down to Newport, the same place where I went in and gave my information, and they gave me a double-breasted suit. They painted these pork pie. They gave me this pork pie hat and painted these stovetop sideburns on my face, because that's what people look like in the 19th century, in the early 19th century, before the Civil War, I guess. And then I got a local newspaper reporter to do a story on me and take a picture. That was pretty cool. So I mean, and I thought I'd have a career in doing films, but instead it's what I'm doing now, which is perfect. But it somehow
related for sure.
Yeah, it's fun, All right, now you ever been in any major films before?
No.
Okay. Well, guess what, Ariel? We're down to the final 5 minutes of the show. So, like I said, if you don't want to give shouts out to anybody, that's fine. But what I want to know is in the next couple of minutes, is there anything that you want to mention about anything you got coming up that might be interesting that you can mention that you want to talk about? Any events or anything that what your future looks like that you might want, or some even goals that you might have that you haven't even considered yet. because I want to help you get there. Via my show, if that's what it takes. If not, that's fine. But I just figured that you do a little brainstorming session of yours to figure that out if you want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to. Like I said, I doing a little bit of voiceover, within my agency, and I kind of I want to look into kind of branching out and maybe doing that a little bit more often.
Okay.
So I have to kind of look into how that works. I have a demo reel, and I just, yeah.
Okay. And how long is
that's a first step, I guess, but.
Oh, it is. How long is the demo reel? Is it like a couple of minutes?
Yeah, it's like, I don't even know. It's like a minute or two. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But, yeah, so I have that. But I just need to figure out, like, do I want to go through, casting agencies, or do I want to, put myself up on, someplace like Fiverr or Upwork and try to kind of do it on my own, get some freelance gigs. I don't have the best setup right now. I have a mic, but it's kind of, they say that the mic doesn't matter as much as the environment that you record in. So I kind of need to figure out a good setup. I need to kind of rearrange my closet, see if I can kind of fashion a makeshift recording studio in there.
Wow. Your closet, huh?
Yeah.
You're gonna take all your clothes out and just do your own, make it a studio.
Well,
okay.
No, you leave the clothes in because with sound, when you're recording something, you want to have as many soft things as possible to basically get the best acoustics.
Of course.
So
you know all about that stuff. I don't. I'm a talent, not a tech. Obviously. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing about voiceovers these days, is that a lot of the times clients will want you to do the recording on your own. I would love to just pop down to a studio and do it there, but that costs more money. So I
definitely recommend that you try to get involved in any agency that you can, because I think that you could send your demo reel to Boston Casting. You could send it to CP. They're a big one now. They just opened up like 5 years ago, and a few other ones too. Check them out. Let's check them out online, because I think that I'm guessing that there'd be a lot of people. You'd be in demand in a lot of places if you put it out there, and it wouldn't have to cost you anything if you don't, unless you like you said, you rent the equipment, rent the agency.
Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of, I have to figure out a strategy, I guess.
Okay, if you ever want to throw some advice, help you, brainstorm, I'd love to help you with it. You got my number. We can always talk. Just let me know. All right. Well, Ariel, you did a great job. We're going to wrap the show up now. If you had a good time with me, other people that want to do my show that might be a good guest for me, send them my way. You got my digits. You can have them call me, text me, whatever.
Awesome. Yeah.
And also, if one last thing, would you mind sticking around for a picture for Facebook? I won't put your last name on there if you don't want me to.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right, folks. If I don't see you till 2023, have a great Christmas and Happy New Year. Take care. See you. Bye. Here we go. Let's wrap it up.